Oh, hey everyone. This is Dean for Paranormal Pickers. Just getting ready for our next Paranormal Picker adventure. Come on, join me. Get my Facebook lined up here. Well, welcome everyone to another edition of Paranormal Pickers. This is season 2, episode 17, the star card, which I don't know where my cards are at. I've been running behind all over the place. Oh, crap.
That's awesome.
I lost my star. But you know everything about tarot. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and meet Robin Wilt down in your St. Augustine area right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, and I thought we were friends. You know.
Oh, why? Why do you say that?
I love St. Augustine. I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, and I'm up here by Wisconsin-Illinois border getting snowed on today when I could be down in the oldest city of America enjoying. Is the old mill inn built yet?
I don't know. You know, it's funny when you live somewhere, right? You know, I don't pay attention to like the hotels and stuff. Maybe other people do, but that's
It's in the old city. It's at a hotel. It's a little. You climb up the mill, and then there's a little bar up there, and they have. Yeah. Well, they tore it down, or something happened to it, and they were supposed to rebuild it.
Yes, and, I know where you're talking about now. For some reason, my brain went to hotel for Yes, it's done.
So that's where I would be right now if I was down in St. Augustine.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah. And then the Huguenot Cemetery right across the street. One of my faves. I took a lot of pictures and received a lot of spirits communicating with me via the sun and the trees and everything. And it's, I actually think a young lady showed me her murder. And if you look back at one of our shows, you get to see that picture of the young lady being stabbed. So, well, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get more into what you actually do down there in St. Augustine.
Yeah, so it's funny because I talk to spirits. It's just part of my gifts. But the whole paranormal thing, it's I don't know. It's not that it freaks me out. It's not really something I've delved into, especially, right? I was thinking about that when we were chatting about doing the show. I'm like, I live in St. Augustine, which is like very active, but it's just not, for whatever reason, like I haven't really gotten into that. So my friend, Erin, who actually put us in contact with each other, she is definitely into that. And I got to spend some time with her over the weekend, and she was kind of, showing me some different places in St. Augustine that I've never noticed before that, have different energies. And it's cool. St. Augustine's a cool place. I'm thankful I'm from here. So,
wow.
But maybe I get to experience it before I move at some point. Yeah.
Oh, so you plan on moving out of St. Augustine? The hurricanes are too much for you right now?
No, I love hurricanes, actually.
I love it.
Yeah, I've lived in Florida my whole life. So I feel like, as much as I love to travel and kind of see the world, I feel like I could actually move somewhere warmer, as weird as that sounds. When you're from Florida, it does get cold here, I promise. Not today. You can't tell right in my short sleeve. I have on. Well, you guys are up north are getting snow. But
I don't have gloves on, but I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that side of Florida does get a little bit cooler, and it's up there, and you probably experience more of the humidity too.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity is nobody's friend, actually. It's like humidity and mosquitoes can go away.
Yeah,
they're useless to nothing.
I always say that when I talk to the big guy at some point, like I want to have a sit down with him about mosquitoes, because you would think I would be used to them, but literally every time one of them bites me, I have like a spaz attack, and I'm like, It's pretty entertaining.
See, I don't get them to bite me, but this whole summer I wasn't really that much outside, unfortunately, but because I don't do heat and humidity and mosquitoes. And if I'm standing outside and I hear the mosquito, that's when I'm running in the
Yeah.
house.
Isn't that the worst sound? It's like, oh.
It's they're useless. Their survival rate is what, 14 days. They take your blood, deliver it, and then they give babies that'll live another 14 days. Useless. Useless
Actually,
insects.
I asked my mentor at one time, because I was in my whole like analyzing the world phase, and he's like, they have a purpose, right? They feed mosquitoes, they feed not mosquitoes, they feed
Bats.
dragonflies, they feed bats, so they are a source of food for other more loved creatures.
Yes, I do love bats. Bats are my friend because of the fact that they eat so many mosquitoes in a matter of seconds. And when I lived a little more rural out by the old schoolhouse out here in Alden, I watched this feast or this massacre happen. I see all these mosquitoes by this streetlight. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't want to be up there. And all of a sudden, I see these bats and stuff just diving in and out of the light. And the next thing I know, the plate was clean and there was no more bugs hanging around this light. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I love too, like bats are such a beautiful symbol of like rebirth and just coming like on the other side of that transformation that we find ourselves in. It's a really beautiful energy.
Yep, and if you find them in your home or attic, leave them there. They're good for everything. I love the cities that build bat homes in a field where billions of bats can nest and hang out and be bats, and control the city's mosquito population without using the sprays, the trucks that go around and spray idiotic chemicals that messes with the humans. So
yeah, this is true. Very, very true.
So we have an interesting show because you have a shed some light on it.net. Please go out and I peruse through the web page, and I'm like, yes, I need that in my life. Yes, I need that in my life. Yes, I need that in my life. I was like, oh my God, this is like a perfect timing for me anyway. So definitely, if you're watching or see this on YouTube later, check out Shed Some Light on it.net. So how did you come up with, obviously, Shed Some Light on it? What was the it that you were referring to?
All of this, right?
All of it. Okay.
All of it. So at some point in my spiritual journey, I think I just found myself using that phrase a lot. Right? Because it was like so much of uncovering like my wounding and my shadow. And I used to be I shouldn't say completely, right? Because nothing is completely black and white, but I was very unhappy. I was very, I had a lot of my wounding that was still kind of running my story in my life. And when I found this journey 7 years ago, when I stumbled upon it and really started diving head in, that phrase kept coming back to me, right? And I believe that anytime we bring the light to something, that it can't, right? Our shadow can't be there anymore. The wounding can't be there anymore. So I just love that. And I loved, I really do enjoy, because our healing is hard enough. I think it should be fun, and I think it should be lighthearted. So I really love being able to bring that aspect to it. I don't think we're meant to suffer as much as we do sometimes. I think we are our own biggest enemies with keeping ourselves in the suffering.
It does have a play off of get over it, shed some light on it. So it does play into, the humorous side. So I can see where you're going with that. So I like it. Shed some light on me.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got so much going on. You just spoke about your challenges, and everyone does go through challenges. And 7 years you've been doing this, you said?
Yeah. So in hindsight, I had gifts when I was a kid. but those got shut off for various reasons. And then when my entire life exploded about 7 years ago, everything started to come back. So yeah, I've been hardcore on this journey for about 7 years now.
Hardcore meaning you loving it, or just it's got its ups and downs, or
yes, all of that. But
sense.
also I love it. Like I'm very right, as challenging as it can be to be on our journeys. I'm also very grateful. I'm thankful that I have, the awareness, and that I'm able to work on these things, for my ancestors, for myself, and to continue to have a very joyful life. I was kind of a serious kid, a lot of like coping mechanisms and astrological energy in there. But I've actually enjoyed, like, as I've gotten older, I've actually gotten younger in a lot of ways. And I like try to embrace life and to be really, like to enjoy it again. Like life is hard sometimes. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So I think that being able to bring that that levity to it is important. And it's funny because something I kind of judged it about myself for a while, and then I started to realize, like, wow, it's actually beautiful that I can bring that, to healing into the space. So
yeah, the awareness, like you said, is when you tap into that and you're aware of everything else kind of makes sense, and you're able to handle pretty much everything, even the dark places. And I've been through that in the last 7 years myself. Most recently, September 28th, I had a girlfriend that was struck and killed by a car.
wow.
This is somebody that I dated when I was 16, and then we got touch base again on 11/11/11. So I know you're the 11/11 person here.
Yeah.
I know you do group pop-up 11/11 manifestation. So I actually lived through a pop-up of 11/11
Wow.
manifestation. So yeah, they actually the first time that I spoke to her after so many years was on 11/11/11, and had an instance where 444 was also introduced that same night, or morning, I should say. And then now I'm seeing more 444s lately. So I know that's her hanging around. And of course, when I found out, it was hard. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. She just had her celebration of life with her family. So I got to meet all those folks again, and just for the first time ever, some of them, even her son. And it was, to me, I left there happy, where I was okay with how that handled it. I can't change it, as you know. I'm aware of it, so I'm aware of what I need to do and what I need to focus on. And then, the other day, like last night, I was just laying there and I just felt happy. And I'm like, boy, I shouldn't feel happy because I'm still kind of going through the mourning process and everything. But, and then I realized, well, maybe she's near me, making me feel happy. So again, back to the awareness. So
Yeah.
that's key. That's key on you teach it, so I don't teach it.
Well, right. I mean, I teach what I have experienced. So my journey kind of started when my dad passed away. And I had a very challenging relationship with my dad. So the fact that I was able to connect with him, with his spirit, and to have that closure, and to, like, in real life, right? My dad was a very challenging man. He suffered with alcoholism when I was a kid. He was a Virgo. He was an ex-Marine. Like, he was very hard.
Wow.
Like, and he had 5 daughters. He had 6 kids and 5 daughters. So he was like, he ran us like little military, right? So, and, tons of other stuff, right? There's lots of different levels that go into our relationship. So when he passed away, it brought up so much of that for healing. And it was, now when I feel my dad's energy, like, I feel like that essence of him, and I see like how proud he is of me. And there's none of the ego crap anymore. It's like, I just get to experience like his full love and his full appreciation for me as a soul and as a daughter. And I'm also, right, I don't coin myself as a medium, but I definitely bring in people's, if their loved ones want to come in, I definitely offer that. And I love being able to offer that that connection, because I think that's what a lot of us want. We feel like we don't have that closure when somebody's taken from us very suddenly. So I think being able to offer that, honestly, I believe everything that I do is such a blessing. Like I'm very, very grateful that I get to hold space for people in the way that I do. It's nice. It really is a joy. Yeah.
And how long ago did your father pass?
The end of 2015, so 7 years ago.
7. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. My dad also passed, and one of the things with my father, him and I were close. I mean, if you saw me and him together, we're like two peas in a pod. We're identical. I pick up the phone. I can have a chit chat with his sister, and her thinking it's him the entire time. Well, him being a baker, he always slept during the afternoon, so I didn't get too much time with him. All I know is that we used to watch the old Westerns together. I was the remote control. And he was from St. Louis area, so we watched all the Cardinals beat the Cubs games. So that was fun. Mm-hmm. And then also he started watching the soap operas. And the one that I watched with him was Guiding Light. It was like one of the oldest shows. So speed up till 2009. Actually, the same day Patrick Swayze passed, my dad died. That's when my dad passed, on the same day as Patrick Swayze. And then when we buried him into the ground, or interred him into the memorial park there, or cemetery, whatever you want to call it, that day was the final episode of Guiding Light.
Oh, wow. It's funny because you and I have already had like a few synchronicities on our chats together so far, which I think is funny. Like my dad also liked the soap operas, and I can't remember if it was Guiding Light or if it was one of those. And then the date that you mentioned earlier that your friend passed away is also a significant date to me. So I love the way Spirit will like randomly throw in these little confirmations. Wow. So did you like Patrick Swayze? Was that did that feel significant to you that?
I don't know yet. I know that he's just considered one of, people just talk about him in all good terms. Said there was never anything bad to say about him. And I knew my dad was just somebody that he talked to everybody. He found time to do everything. So, in a sense, he was probably that likable. I mean, just kind of that whole Patrick Swayze essence, in a sense. So, yeah. And I actually told him, I said, because we were doing a lot of ancestry stuff with his family. I come from big families on both sides, and his mom's side's from Missouri, so it was kind of. You get the whole some Cherokee type of blood, and I'm like, I knew it was wrong, but it was like people would tell the stories, and I was like catching in on the lies and stuff, and so of course we're talking about that. And he lost his mom at an early age, and his dad, and it was funny. I used to have long hair because I grew up in the '80s, so I had the long hair type of appearance. And I remember the first time I got it cut, I walked into the bakery, and he's froze like he saw a ghost, and I was like worried. I'm like, Dad, what's wrong? He's like, and he calls his brother Carl up, my uncle Carl. He's like, Carl. They both stare at me. I'm like, I felt like weird. It's like, why are these guys looking at me? And like, who do you see there? Like, their father, Grandpa. They saw Grandpa Harry and me. They thought they saw a ghost. So that was kind of cool. And it just, like you said, it just. The synchronicities, the everything's, someone's commenting that. We have Victoria Monday on the chat here. So she says, Patrick Swayze is from Houston, and so am I. We ran into the same circles. We live not too far from me. Oh, look at that.
Cool.
And there you go. Well, thanks for sharing that.
thought he would be a good guy. You know, some celebrities, you feel their energy and you're like, yeah, I feel like they would be a good person, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, as far as the relationship between Patrick Swayze and my dad, I think that was more of the connection there, you know, just and the timing, you know.
Yeah.
The unfortunate. So speaking of spiritually, so you say you're not in the paranormal, but you speak to spirits. Isn't that kind of the same?
You know, it's funny because Aaron and I were chatting about it over the weekend. I guess right. So we'll just, because I'm very honest about things. I guess when I hear the word paranormal, I think of like the way that things were kind of not twisted, but the way that things were portrayed in like media around spirits, right? It's very sensationalized when it's on a movie or when it's on a show. And granted, I don't watch movies like that. I'm a scaredy cat. So, you know, but like right back when, because I grew up too in the 80s, you know, it was a lot of like The Exorcist. And, you know, it was not never, but it was very infrequently like a kind spirit. It was usually these spirits that were like coming to, you know, traumatize you and terrorize you. Yeah. So I don't want to watch that. Like, I don't want to, you know, like I'm not going to sign myself up for, yeah. But it's funny because that's carried over into, you know, now it's like, I didn't even realize it was still a thing. And Erin and I chat about it a lot because she's very much into it. And I'm open to it. Like when she talks to me about it, you know, right. Because it resonates with so much of what I do and what she does that it just naturally comes up in conversation, but it's been interesting to see how my perception of that has shifted. I think it is just I don't like it when media portrays things as, to me, like something very different than it actually is. You know, I think it gives things, you know, more of a negative slant than they mean.
Yeah, because the horror movies, they kind of go towards the paranormal science fiction type of stuff. So, and it should be separate, you know, but paranormal could be anything from aliens to Bigfoot to, you know, pretty much anything that's not normal.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's what I do all day long. So
yeah.
Like I'm talking to spirits and angels in my head, like that's not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With my dad is, I told, you know, that's what I was going to finish up saying is that, you know, when we buried him, I said, you know, I'm fine. Go and find your mom and dad, you know. If I need you, I'll ask for you. And there was 3 times that I asked for him and he was there each time spiritually. I remember was one night and it was 2019, so it wasn't too far after that. And I was trying to sleep, insomnia, and I had the TV on. I'm like, you know, wish I could hear the sound and just turn the TV screen off so I don't see the bright light. You know, I don't want the blue light. And then all of a sudden, my TV picture went out, but the sound was still there. And I'm like, oh, hey, Dad. You know, I was like, the timing was amazing. And that's awesome. What I asked him. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks for looking out for the boy, you know?
I love it. I think that's my other challenge is like, even though I'm very connected, sometimes I don't see the correlation, right? So if like a light was to start blinking, I don't think I would necessarily tune in. Like, I know some people are very good at that. They're like, oh, that's so-and-so. Like I feel stuff or I'll just know it. And it's right. If I'm in a session with somebody, it's a lot clearer than if I'm just walking down the street. But you know, it's a thing, like trying to learn your gifts and learn how to tap into them and learn how to have energetic boundaries. And I mean, it's a process for sure.
Mine started with the whole lights going off, like street lights, shopping center lights. I mean, it got to the point where if I passed something, lights would go off, and I could be out of state somewhere, turning the corner, a light will go off. And that kind of was lasting for a while. And I think it was like all right, is he going to figure it out or what? So
Mm.
once I figured it out, then that kind of subsided, and then it became opposite of. There's a green light thing where you can take the green light and you always get green lights. Well, I'm
Mm.
the opposite. I'm thinking, watch, I'm going to get a red light. Boom, red light. And I remember telling my dad that, and every time I stopped, it was like a red light. I'm like, I tell you, he goes, that's stupid, you know. He goes, that light up there always is green. Until I got up there and changed red, I'm like, I told you. So how did you start seeing, or how did they teach you to see is a better question, I guess.
How did they teach me to see? Honestly, I feel like with a lot of things, they have to like beat me over the head. So I did an
Same
event.
way.
Yeah, I did an event a couple years ago, and you know how you just start to get signals about stuff? Like I kept getting mediumship, and I was like, I don't want to go there because I had this very specific idea of what it would look like, and it scared me, to be honest.
Okay.
So I did this tarot event, and I was doing mini readings. So they were like 10 or 15 minutes, and all of a sudden this lady's dead daughter comes through, and it was like I got hit by a truck, right? Her energy was just all up in my field. And I'm telling the lady, I'm like, hey, your daughter's here. She really wants to connect with you. But I'm like, I don't have the space for this right now. Like, right, we're finishing up. And also like, I don't even know if I know how to do this, you know? So yeah, it's more of, I know and I feel it. So it's a lot of sensations for me, and also sensations. Yeah, I would say sensations. And just like if something wants to come in, it has to be like, and not so much anymore, right? Because I've gotten better at listening.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm still continuing to hone that, though, to be honest with you, because it was something that I kind of pushed away for a while. I was like, don't really want to do that. So I'm still learning. You know, I think that's the other really beautiful thing about our spiritual journey that I love, because I love to learn, is that I feel like I'm always learning. I feel like I'm always getting to like do cool stuff and, you know, getting to try new healing modalities. And like, you know, I'm always the first person, if a friend is in school for something, I'm like, yes, I'll be your guinea pig.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always thought the lights were turning off, saying, okay, you're on the right path. You're going where you're supposed to be going. And then red lights are pretty much preventing you from danger. So I kind of looked at that. I'm like, in a sense, it could have been, but I think it was them leading me to a point where, all right, he doesn't need this anymore. He's going to see it right away, type of thing. So.
Okay, so here's the other funny thing, I think, because like, right, as spiritual people, we can be like, oh my God, like it's all got a meaning. Like my friend broke one of the mugs that she really likes, and she called me. She's like, what do you think it means? And I was like, your mug broke. You know, it's like, I think sometimes
you need a new mug.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, yes, there's meaning there, and then other times like, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, you know, but I do agree with you, right? Like, I think it is when we get in tune with what our angels or our guides are telling us, right? In that phase for you, it was like green lights meant this and red lights meant that. And now they're just green lights and red lights. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I've been accused of overthinking, or you're thinking too deeply into it. And I'm like, well, of course, you know, it's part of the fun too. You know, you can, you know, build a story off of it a little bit, you know, why not?
To hypothesize. Yeah. Like all the things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you do focus to help others, so which is nice. And there's been times where I can sit down and ask somebody, like if they were lost a job and if they were going back, is it the right move? And then I say, okay, did you see an animal? Did you see this? And knowing like some of the earth signs out there, I'll say, did you see a hawk? Well, I did see a hawk on the way to work. Okay, on the way to work, on your first day back, yeah. Okay, was he looking away from you or looking at you? He was looking away. Was he looking left or looking right? He looked left. I go, which way did you turn to go to work? I turned right. And I'm like, okay, so if the Hawk's looking left and you turning right, you may be going the wrong way. I'm just saying.
Yeah, right. I mean, right. It's an art form sometimes, like interpreting what they're telling us. It's like, I always say that I want them to give me a big billboard that says like, Robin, do this.
So how long does it take for you to kind of build that focus to help others? I mean, is it a one session, 15 minutes? Is it over the course of time? Or does it certain circumstances weigh out?
It really varies by person. It's kind of interesting. Like some people I'll have, because I've also noticed as my gifts have started to expand that I activate people. Oh. So like I'll activate their gifts. I'll help them, to like step further into their gifts. So that's been interesting to see. So some people it's just one session and I never hear from them again. Some people it is like one-on-one coaching for a few months. It just kind of varies. It's which that too is fun, just to like stand back and say, all right, spirit, because it's not me. Like, I'm holding the space. I'm just holding the space, right? I'm doing what spirit's telling me to. Like I've cleared my channel enough that I can hear it and not doubt it as much. I'm getting pretty good at not doubting.
Have you heard the term earthbound angel? Is that kind of the definition in a sense? We're delivering the message, and if you didn't deliver it, another earthbound angel would. Somebody else.
I'm a huge believer that that we're led to certain people, but I also think that as human beings, like sometimes we need to hear things multiple times, I might plant a seed because I'll have that happen sometimes where I'll say something to somebody and they're like, oh no, I don't really resonate with that. And then, a couple months later, they're like, oh my God, you were so spot on. And I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. I'm like, I'm channeling this shit. I don't like, it's not me, it's spirit. Like, but good to know, good to know
you finally got it. Yeah.
Which can I just say I'm impressed with myself that we're 32 minutes in and I just cussed for the first time.
Oh, well, take a moment, take the next minute if you want to lay out some F-bombs and F-bombs.
That's awesome.
There's no, Laura Redmond, who's part of our team, Go Said Soup, we had her on last week, 30 seconds in, boom.
I love it.
So early on, and when did you start doing? Now, first off, how do you pronounce it? Tarot?
I say tarot.
Tarot. All right. So how early did you start doing the cards?
Okay, so this is a funny thing, actually. So actually, I've been using oracle cards for almost 7 years.
So and there's that number 7 again.
Yeah, I found that I had a lot of resistance, which is so funny because I don't have a huge religious thing like some people do, but I definitely had, and I think part of it was like past life fear, right? Like I felt that persecution coming up, like, oh my God, people are going to see that I'm doing this. Like they're going to think it's weird, right? All the things that, first come up when you're like opening up your gifts. So I use them. And I have like tons of oracle decks. I just loved them. I love to read. I'm a Gemini. So I was constantly like any books or oracle decks I could get my hands on. I was just all about it. And then 2 years ago, one of my mentors, I did mystery school with her. And she was offering a tarot course for a year. And part of me wanted to, and part of me was like, do I really want to? And she said, well, I got this image of you as this oracle, like back in the day, sitting on this mountain. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And I try to be a proponent of like surrendering to what the universe is bringing forward. So, and I think I had actually asked for a tarot course. So I did that with her, and it changed me so much, and it opened up my gifts. like it helped me to trust myself a lot more, I think was the main thing. But like I loved, learning the layout of the cards, tuning into things. I again, like I feel like I'm constantly learning. I use the cards pretty much every day, but there's still, like, I still feel like there's always so much to learn about it. So,
Right.
Yeah, I think they're groovy. It's weird though. Do you ever find yourself like where sometimes you're a little resistant to them, or you feel
To the cards? I don't do them as often. I just stick with a 5-card read normally. I had a situation to where Nick, who's the partner here with the Paranormal Pickers, and he's been going through that. So I figured, okay, I just get it in my head, and I shuffle the cards, and I kept them all straight. I didn't like reverse them or anything, and tried to keep them all straight. And it just said every 8th card. So I took out every 8th card, and whatever it was, it kind of led through his life, and it's kind of like, okay, at least who in his life is acknowledging that he's going through this. This is his kid. I mean, it kind of laid out pretty well. So I just kind of go off of this here opposed to any kind of layouts, because I know there's probably 30,000 different card lays that you could possibly do, and the partner up against each other, and you got the crossways and everything else. So it's I don't have that ability to know. I just rely on what pops into my head. So.
Honestly, that's where I've kind of developed it. I think having the course, it helped me, to understand the system of the cards, but also it really was more about just opening up my intuition and like trusting myself. Because now when I do layouts, I don't intentionally do this, but I'll find myself like doing these different patterns, and it's trippy because I'm like, I didn't do that on purpose. It's like spirit, same thing. It's like spirit tells me where to put them, and I just put them in that place. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool design. All right. Interesting.
Are you a painter of sorts or an artist?
I've definitely stepped more into my creativity the past couple of years. So yeah, I would say that now. I would give myself that that title.
Because I could see you painting something on canvas, walking away, and I don't remember I could do anything like this. I could see you walking away and say, wow, I actually did that.
Honestly, when I write, that's kind of what happens. Yeah.
Well, you kept mentioning 7 years, and yesterday I just wanted to escape my brain for a little bit. So I went into my old Word docs, found a story that I written in 2015, and then revised it. And it actually was 7 years ago. So there you go. And I was thinking, and then I sent it to my friend George and said, here, this is something that I started 7 years ago. And then I included that 7 years in the story. I added that part of the story. So the 7 years, like you were saying earlier, there's a couple synchronicities going on here.
Okay, so actually, funny, I do readings a couple of times a month at a friend's yoga studio in St. Augustine. She owns Serenity Yoga. So if you're in town, check it out. It's an awesome studio. She's got a little lockbox for the key on the door, on the outside door. So I went today and I was doing the little numbers. So when I locked it back, I did 7777. And I put the numbers back. Yeah. So we definitely have some sevens in the air today.
Speaking of St. Augustine, back to that is when I was doing the research with the whole Cherokee thing, and I know enough to know enough, and scary in a sense. But when I got down there, I went into the store that it was a Native American running the place. So she was an actual 100% full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Cool. And I was coughing in there, and she goes, no coughing in the store. And I'm like, that's okay, I'm just dying. and I told her what's going on with the family, and that they think there's Cherokee blood, but this is the story, so I don't too much about it. So she ended up saying, well, if you are Cherokee, it's, a one Cherokee will, if you come across another Cherokee, you're supposed to reward them with gifts and stuff and money. And she paused, and I'm like, I ain't falling for that.
You should just told her, "Will you reward me?" Right?
Yeah. No, she was setting me up. I go, sarcasm is my middle name.
Yeah.
And sarcasm was hers, same thing. It was kind of odd that we had that in common. But she was very nice, and she actually took out sage, and she actually went around and saged me. And I knew enough about sage that you can't snuff it out. You have to let it burn out. Mm. So I watched everything that she was doing, and she did it correctly. And I was kind of like beside myself. Obviously, it was like I have this experience with somebody, and it was just, it moved me. It moved me, and it was very, very nice, very pleasant, and very, overwhelming to say the least.
That's so beautiful. That's why I love traveling so much, because I feel like, we have these really beautiful connections with people, that we, for me, I notice them a lot more when I'm traveling sometimes than I do like when I'm in my own area, because we get so used to life and our habits and our patterns. But when we're outside of our normal day-to-day energy, like I think we really notice those things.
Right. So there is some passages here in the messages.
Yeah.
John, I have a weird question. I'm not trying to relate this to the resurrection, but I wonder if people who pass have a few days to say goodbye before they move to the light. My sister appeared to me 5 days after she passed, and this became stuck in my head. That maybe explains some hauntings. So do you feel that a person when passed have a certain time frame to do their goodbyes and go away? I think some say 90 days, some say 5 days, 7 days, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's kind of two-part, and this is what my mentor kind of explained to me, and it feels right to me just based on what I've experienced. So, right, I think they're closer to the earth plane then, like right after they pass. So whatever the time limit is, right? Like I don't think there's any like hard and fast rule, but I do believe that their energy is it's more connected, right? Because they've just left their physical body. So it's like they're closer. But then I also do think there are spirits who kind of get stuck, which is why we have the paranormal things. They're not able to cross over for whatever reason. They haven't resolved things. They're not ready to. Like there's, a slew of different reasons.
Their name was not on the list when they walked.
Yeah, I mean, right. There's so many possibilities. But it's weird. I have had a few, like this girl that I saw her a couple years ago for sessions. She was also a psychic, and her mom had, this isn't a great example, but this just popped in, so I'm going to share it. Like her mom came to me in a dream. Oh. And her mom wanted me to deliver this message. And I'm like, I just had started to like understand this stuff. And I'm like, I'm really going to call her and tell her like, yo, your dead mom said blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but it kind of nags you, sometimes until you relay the message. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to deliver the message and she can do whatever she wants to with it. So yeah, I think it definitely,
wow, we just scratched our nose at the same time. You see that?
What does that mean?
I don't know. That was weird. Like we did the same thing and put her. Oh wow, that was freaky.
It's a signal, right?
That's freaky.
See, I'm psychic. I'm following you.
Man. So there was a response here from Victoria to John's question. Hey, John, that happened to me in my entire life. I've always thought it was just the universe giving me a cosmic heads up, trying to prepare me for their passing. I can see that. I'm the one who cries immediately, so if I'm given a day or two heads up, then when they exactly pass, I'm kind of prepared. When they need someone to stand strong and make arrangements, I could try and step up. So it's kind of like prepping in a sense. But I feel too where once spirit has that crossing, and once spirit understands there was nothing they could do about a situation, I feel that they have free reign. I think they can come and go, get a
Mm-hmm.
hall pass, so to speak. It's like, I'm leaving heaven for a second, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
take a vacation back to earth,
Yeah,
whatever, whatever it is. But I feel that there is free reign.
I do too.
Um,
Yeah.
I I feel that there could be a hierarchy in Spirit Land, based off of the evidence that we captured, paranormal
Mhm.
evidence. Um, and ironically, when I was talking about the guy that I sent the story to, I found an old uh, Word doc of his, and he says, think outside the box, or think above your own goals. Instead of capturing evidence, try to communicate with them. you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's the difference between what you do and what Erin might do. Is
Mhm.
she a ghost hunter, Erin? Your friend Erin, or
I don't know if
she
you would call her a ghost hunter.
is she looking for evidence where you're looking for contact or communication for that matter?
Huh. I'm not sure. That's an interesting way to look at it. I'm not sure. And
I mean,
again, to be honest with you, I wasn't looking for any of it. Like, I wasn't into it at all. I was like, I kept pushing it away. I'm like, all right, spirit, like if you could just. So it's funny, right? When you have these gifts and when you have these abilities, I think spirit will work with you, because what ended up happening is, yes, Erin is also a light worker, but Erin is like, she's definitely into the paranormal stuff. So I don't know what she would consider herself in that realm. Um, but I feel like spirit comes to you where you are, like spirit was sneaky about how it brought about the unfolding of my gifts, because then all of a sudden it was just there. It wasn't like I had to go take a class, or I was,
okay.
like consciously doing it. It came to me over time, and it wasn't something that I felt more comfortable with it as it unfolded. So maybe some people are looking for it. I don't, we're all different, right? I always say there's 8 billion of us, and we all we all come lots of different beautiful ways. So yeah, it's beautiful. This crazy life is beautiful.
So Erin does light work, and you do energy work. What kind of energy work do you do in your shop or
So
whatever?
I would also consider myself a light worker. So right, like light workers are healers. So I
Okay.
do what I will say is I have combined all the things that I've learned into kind of my own way of doing work. So I've taken Reiki level 1. I've done, my mentor had a system for energy work. I've done like quantum touch. I've done, I love to learn. So literally I have like a laundry list of all the classes I've taken. But what it has allowed me again is to like trust my intuition. So now I
Yes.
just get to a space. I don't overthink it. I don't worry about it. I open the container, I open the space, and I just say, okay, spirit, here's all the things that you've taught me. Allow me to help this person to heal, like to the highest ability that I'm able to. So it's kind
Love
of
it.
cool actually to see like different things that come up as I'm healing. I'll literally in the middle of a session, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I've never done that before. It tickles me. Like I think it's so cool. It's
Yeah.
because it really is limitless. The things that it's like you were saying with tarot, right? I feel like we learn the framework, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, you learn enough rules to know that there are no rules.
Pretty much.
Like, okay, I can just do whatever.
Yeah. It's like you're on a playground, you write your own rules and you keep writing your own rules.
Yeah.
So you mentioned quantum touch. I want to talk a little bit about that, but also shadow work caught my eye. What's
Yeah.
shadow work?
So shadow work for me is kind of two-part. In my own journey, it has been a lot of like loving the lower parts of myself. So I used to be very hard on myself. I used to like nitpick everything that I thought was wrong with me, like externally, internally. Like I was my worst critic and I was constantly beating myself up. And people that I work with, right, most of us have that. Most of us have this part of ourselves that we feel shame about, that we feel guilt about. It's usually the more human, like base side of us, the part of us that does stuff and we're like, I don't really want to do that. Why am I doing that? Right.
The stupid part, the human
Yeah.
stupid part. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like loving that part of yourself, and also uncovering like why you do those things. And then also with shadow work, it's a lot about, again, like bringing that light to our patterns and our wounding that is causing us to act in that way. So it's kind of a two-part thing. It's like loving and accepting that side of yourself creates the ability to change that part of yourself, right? You can't change it if you're judging it and you're sticking that part of yourself, you're locking it in a box and like telling yourself you're horrible. Like it's part of the human condition to mess things up and to do stupid things and to act outside of ways that we think are normal, right? So it's a lot of subconscious work.
So it's like shadows of your past. Is that kind of where the shadow comes from?
The shadow. So right, our subconscious is driving the bus of our world, and we can't see our subconscious, right? So there's things that I can see about you that you can't see about yourself. So it's that shadow. And same for you. Like you're going to be able to look at me and say like, oh, wow, Robin really, like she needs to work on that, right? You start to notice that in your day-to-day life, like people that you see them and you're like, holy crap, like this wound is like driving your life. So it's that shadow part. I can't really see it, but other people, especially healers, can see it and they can step in and like help you to rewire it.
I like that. I'm going to start looking into that because that caught my eye, and the definition actually helped it along pretty much. So thank you for that. And I'm more intrigued about that shadow work now. Yeah. Quantum touch now. What's all that about?
Oh, so, again, like so I'm a projector in human design. So I'll just briefly interject myself. So projectors are meant to, like, we wait for the invitation. So if something comes to me, I should be more open to spirit and to say like, okay, maybe this is something I should look into, right? So I had a healing with a girl a couple years ago. And in the session, she was like, I feel like you're going to be doing stuff with touch. She's like, there's something very healing about your hands. And I'm like, okay. So I shit you not, she told me about this system called Quantum Touch. And then, of course, like the following, like in a couple of weeks, it was coming to Florida. So I did the course, and I honestly think that what I ended up, right, of course I grew, because every course that we take, like we're going to grow and heal. That's just kind of a blanket given. So I healed and I was able to overcome some stuff, but also what I learned from this person was very interesting. Part of it was what not to do. So that was interesting. And then the other
That's part, the first thing you learn is what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna, because I don't ever like to bash people, and it wouldn't be bashing, but I don't know if I could articulate it now in the moment and like
not bash.
Yeah. And then the other aspect was my boundaries. So my energetic boundaries have been something that I've definitely had to work on, especially with being a healer. Like I'm an empath, so I didn't know how to not take on people's stuff energetically. So
okay. Yeah.
That was another big part of that class for me, was to learn how to maintain my boundaries. And it's like I take little bits and pieces from every course or every workshop that I've ever done, and I heal right while I'm doing it. But I also I just continue to take, okay, I'm going to take this from this modality, I'm going to take this from over here, and just it continues to morph into whatever it is that I'm, whatever system I have now. I don't know if it would be something that I would like market and sell, but who knows?
Who's the oldest teacher that you learned from? Meaning, 1500s or before,
Oh.
like Nostradamus or Nostradamus, or
Wow.
because I know you're into astrology too. And who's the oldest teacher that you took something from that?
Probably Rumi. I like Rumi. He's kind of old school, right? That's the other. I as much as I love history and like I'm so intrigued by history, I'm horrible at it. Like if you asked me when somebody was around, I would tell you. I think Ruby's the oldest, I would imagine.
And how does that incorporate in your current studies or work?
Not so much anymore, but I think for a while, the things that I was reading, because I had a lot of healing to do around relationships and like how right, I was raised in kind of a very codependent childhood, right?
Okay, well,
Alcoholism, and I think that was very much the energy back in that generation. So I always thought like somebody was going to come in on a white horse and save me. Emotionally, not in other ways in my life. I was very independent, but emotionally, I thought somebody was going to come in on a white horse and like, make me feel good about myself.
That's a tough one. Codependency. That's one of the strongest things that no one can ever divide except the two people involved.
Yeah.
Or multiple people. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think his words, because he's a poet, I guess you would say. I don't know what else you would quantify him as, but reading his words, like I have an oracle deck of his, and I would read like different writings or teachings, and it would really help me to remember to like come back to myself, to come back to like loving myself and appreciating myself.
Yeah. Land the plane a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that like when people write things, it's not only the words, but it's like the vibration that's coming through. Like we're tuning our energy to that. It's helping us to have like that healing on a deeper level than we even realize.
Yeah, and I know based off of the other things you do is one, you had a hip replacement at an early age. You don't need to talk about that, but then you go on to ballroom dancing, yoga, and nature, and I think you kind of apply poems and poetry to that part of it, because isn't yoga kind of a visual form of that sense?
Yeah.
I don't know too much about yoga. I'm too big of a guy to do yoga.
No, you're not. Nope. I don't believe that.
Too arthritic of a person to
Nope.
Does it I'm not going to win this one. I know it.
Yeah.
I tried though. I tried.
Yeah. But right, I think we all resonate with different things. I don't think we should ever force ourselves into doing anything that we're just not into.
Like the essential oils. I mean, I get that, but I don't get it because, sensitivities to smell, sensitivities to stuff. It affects my skin, something like that. But I love walking into certain places and smelling the incense and, all that other stuff. And you deal with the essential oils too. Do you use that just in a room setting, or do you use that as part of, that's healing, right?
Honestly, it's for my own healing. I don't even really use it in sessions. So this is funny. This was around like 6 or 7 years ago. So I went with a friend to a health fair, and we were walking around to like the different booths, and this lady was standing there peddling her, her hybrid.
Truly?
Yeah. All of her essential oils. And I stopped to talk to her. And at that point, like I couldn't even smell some of the oils. It like the scents were very overpowering for me. Like I remember peppermint one time I smelled it and I couldn't smell it.
Wow.
It bothered me.
Yeah.
So I stopped to talk to this lady, and she's like, "Oh, I don't use any over-the-counter stuff anymore. I don't use any medication." She's like, "I use essential oils for everything." And I know I looked at her like she was batshit crazy. I'm like, yeah, okay. So and she said, you can see everything on my face. And I remember her saying something to the effect of like, oh no, I thought that too when I first started. So then like over the time span of a few years, I lived with a girl who was real into essential oils, and I learned a lot from her and like how to use them. So I haven't in 7 years, 7 years, I haven't taken a Tylenol. I haven't taken any over the counter stuff other than I had like some dental work done. And, of course I don't want to be, rubbing essential oils on my teeth, trying to like in my mouth. Right. So they used what they had to at the dentist. And then when I went to Peru a couple years ago, I used some of the anti-altitude sickness medication or whatever, the pills, but that's it in 7 years. That's the only over the counter stuff I've taken. And it's from essential oils. Like I've gotten to heal. I had asthma real bad.
Now you're talking my language. How do I fix my asthma?
Yeah. Eucalyptus and cedarwood. I
had eucalyptus in the shower, and I couldn't do. I think there's I have a combination of stuff that just doesn't help.
It's a lot of emotional stuff, right? Like the other thing that helped was all the energy work I was doing, all of the shadow work and all of the energy work. I mean, it was my asthma was very much emotional related.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And you think about it too,
I'll dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, let me know. I could definitely, and intuitively, I could just tell you like a combo that would work for you. And there's also some, some different ways that you can apply the oils and using your intention to work through certain things. So yeah, hit me up and we can have a chat after the show.
Will do.
Yeah.
So Peru, you mentioned Peru. I mean, is this something that you travel for spiritually, or is just business pleasure?
I love to travel. So yeah, if I'm down to travel for any and all reasons. This was a couple years ago. I don't know. I found myself just intuitively like, oh, actually, I remember what happened. So somebody that I knew was doing an ayahuasca ceremony in Peru. And I thought at first I was going to do that. And then at the last minute, I backed out. It didn't feel right. But I was like, I still want to go to Peru. So I found, a tour group that did it. And I went over and hiked Machu Picchu. So that was a beautiful, amazing experience for sure.
Now, is that going back to you were on a mountain at one time?
Yeah, probably.
Did you feel like you were at home during this trip?
Okay, so yes. My life sometimes I feel like, in hindsight, life is very funny. So I messed up my knee as I was coming back down the mountain, and I came home and like I went to my mentor and I was like, hey, my knee's all jacked up, like something's going on. So of course it was energetic. So right, like we connected to some past lifetime of mine that I was over in Peru, like did some healing, and of course it's fine now. I'm telling you, like I wouldn't believe this shit if I hadn't experienced it enough times. Like I was so skeptical when I first started out. I was an accountant. I have an MBA. Like I'm very much, like back then I was like, no, there's black and white. Like I want to be able to see it and, have you explain it to me and like it needs to make sense. But over the years, like I had enough experiences where I messed up my knee. I think, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go like have x-rays. They're going to do all the things. I'm going to need, all this crap done on my knee, but I do energy work and it's fine now. It's like you have enough circumstances like that happen and you're like, okay, I'm starting to believe. Yeah.
So back to 1111 manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What do you do there?
This is like another gift that I have, which I don't, it's funny when you start to like think about the things you help people with. I'm good at helping people to manifest things. So 1111, right? If you think about the number 1, it's new beginnings, it's positivity. It's kind of, we just came off of the eclipse season. with Scorpio, like releasing a lot of karmic energy. People were releasing a ton. So I was helping support people through that. And inevitably what that does is we do the work, we release all the crap, we release all the karma, and then it opens up this gateway for us to move into manifestation and to move into, what we want to open ourselves up to. I think that one of the things that is so interesting to me about manifestation is how much we restrict ourselves. Like we want something and then we're like, oh no, but I couldn't have that. Right? Where spirit's like, just ask for it, like see if it happens. It's pretty cool if it does.
Do you feel greedy though if you keep asking?
I had, right, because I was the kid that like, I didn't want to inconvenience anybody. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to, like, I was very much, right, because I was so sensitive, like I felt the struggles that my parents had. So I never asked for anything. Like it's been a process for me to recognize a need, to learn how to ask for it. I mean, we're talking like years of working through that wounding. Cause I remember I used to always say like, oh no, I'm easy. I don't need anything. Nope. Don't want to bother anybody. Don't want to inconvenience them. But you're asking the universe from like the endless energy of everything, right? There's always enough to go around. There's always, the resources that we need. Like we just have to learn to ask for it, to allow ourselves to receive it. Receiving is the other big thing, right? Because you can ask for it, but if you have that subconscious playing, like, I don't deserve it, I'm being greedy, I'm asking for too much, you're not ever gonna, which I had that too. I had to work through the receiving, Our subconscious it's beautiful and magical, but it's also kind of a butthead.
Now, there are some people out there that have the guides and have the spirit leading them through their life, and sometimes they won't even know it. And maybe they're just not capable, or, they're right brain more than left brain, or left brain more than right brain. I forget which one is more the creative side. So sometimes the logical side, if they're more logical, they won't understand the spiritual side. So they will never see it. But we can agree that, yeah, they probably have somebody there guiding them and keeping them out of trouble at times.
I think
go ahead.
Like it's surprising sometimes, like people that I've talked to that I would think like they wouldn't be into any of this stuff. Like they're into it, but they call it something different, right? So a lot of people have that gut feeling. Like that seems to be the more, it's not like, oh, it's not spirits, it's not angels. It's like, I have this gut feeling and they can't really explain where it's coming from. So yeah, I think we all have it. That
was me as a kid, the gut feeling. And I remember this time, oh my God, it was snowing and, we're young boys doing stupid young boy things. And we decided that the snowballs weren't heavy enough. So we added a couple rocks in it. Come on. And we used to throw, they would throw the snowballs at the front door of this house. And if it's aluminum door, boom, boom, boom. Anyway, kids. And so that day we were putting the rocks in there, I got this twisty, turny thing in my stomach. And I'm like, I can't go. I can't. My stomach hurts so bad. And I trust my gut. And I'm like, I can't move. I mean, it's literally where it was so painful I couldn't move.
Wow.
And my friends, the two friends that I were with, said, all right. So they took the snowballs and they ran and they threw it at the door. And as soon as they started throwing the snowballs, the front door opened and the guy was taking their pictures.
Oh, wow.
So they got the picture developed and they went to their parents' house. I was the only one that stayed back there. I watched it from where I was perched, and I'm like, see, gut feeling, but somebody was there saying, you ain't going anywhere, Dean. Yeah. So that's a perfect example of that. So
yeah. I look back, like at the times my angels must have saved me from a lot of things, because I did some pretty stupid things when I was younger.
Human things.
Yeah, human things. And in hindsight, I'm like, wow, I'm very grateful that, that I had those experiences, but also that somebody was looking out for me because,
Now, you mentioned you were an accountant,
hmm
or still an accountant, I guess. You'll never not
no,
be an accountant. You just don't practice the trade.
yeah, I still create Excel spreadsheets like a baller. So,
I worked for a bank, a credit card bank, and I did Excel spreadsheets. And the other day I was trying to figure out, how do I do that drop down with the names? And if I got to go look that up, it's been a while. But you do say you have a passion for numbers and the love of money. And then
mhm.
I read that. I'm like, well, that's interesting because isn't money the root of all evil? So I
No,
wanted to get your take on that. I want you to explain why it's not the root of all evil.
yeah, I mean, to me, money equals freedom, right? The way that I ended up doing ayahuasca in June of this year. And very clearly, what Spirit showed me was Spirit wants us to enjoy our life, right? Like, money is not bad, it's not evil. It's like the obsession that we have with it, right? Because
Gotcha.
we
Okay.
trust that piece of paper. We trust our job. We trust all these things that we think are like the vessel of our happiness, but really it's like when we tune in with Spirit, when we tune in with like our inherent worth, money is a tool that gives us the things that we want, right? It gives us the house to live in, the car to drive, the ability to go on vacations and to do nice things. So it's
And
not,
you get your money honestly, where the evil people will try to get their money through evil means. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. And I don't even think, I think it goes back to that shadow thing. Like, I've certainly fucked up and done stupid things because I had a lot of scarcity wounds to heal. I have things that I've done in my past that I'm not proud of around money. And I don't think that makes me evil. I think it just makes me wounded. And I had a long line of scarcity that I had to heal through. Like, it came from both sides of my mom's side and my dad's side. Um, I think
Well,
again,
I worked in the credit card fraud department, so I was
mm,
dealing with all the scammers. And actually, the last thing that I did at the business before I was laid off with a bunch of other thousands of people at the time was worked on elderly abuse. So I was able
mm,
to figure out through spreadsheets and all this other stuff how to red flag an account where we could actually call on the person and see if we need to send out adult
mm,
protective services to their
yeah.
home. So that was the last thing that I did there. So dealing with evil people in that sense of the term, trying to get money, is just phenomenal what people will actually do to gain an inheritance to the point of murder.
I mean, that's right. That's how deep our scarcity goes, is that it's
Yeah.
a collective energy for sure, that we will go to those lengths and do things that we wouldn't otherwise because we're afraid, right? We're afraid of
Yeah.
not having enough or, whatever our core wound is or whatever we've been conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. It's a collective wound. Yeah. But
Makes sense.
I love helping people to find like their own worth, and then anything that you get on top of that is kind of a bonus, right? It's being able to use that tool in a way. The other cool thing that Spirit showed me was like, if I drop dead tomorrow, like somebody else is going to get to use this stuff, right? My house and my car. So I'm getting to use this stuff that the universe has on loan to me. So it's not even mine. It's like, it's not
Can't take it
mine.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make me who I am. It doesn't make me more lovable or more valuable, if I have a bigger house than somebody, or if I have a nicer car than them, or whatever the old story is that we've all been taught. Like, yeah, it's still going to be here and somebody else is going to get to use it. So it's not mine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for opening my eyes to that point of
Yeah.
view. I like that. And you had mentioned the dreams before, where you had a dream and that you're like, okay, I need to tell them because it's nagging at you. And I remember a moment where I had either was a dream or something popped in my head, and then like 5 years later, it was like a deja vu where I actually was in a place where it played out
Mm-hmm.
exactly how I either visioned it or dreamt it. And I turned to the guy as he was talking to me, and I'm like, wow, I think I'm actually here for you. And that's where I learned about the earthbound angel thing. And
Ooh.
like, and I had you get both sides of the debate. You have one person that says, well, you delivered this message, is it progressive entrapment? Or then you have the other side saying, is it spiritual angel delivering a message, and if you didn't, someone else is going to do it?
Yeah.
I like the earthbound angel idea opposed to progressive entrapment, because they're going to be, if they're in a state where they need help, they could take worse things that I'm telling them. I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. How do you feel about that balance of progressive entrapment versus earthbound angel?
I don't know if I've heard of that term, the progressive entrapment, but is that like kind of almost where you create it because you're thinking about it, or what's?
Well, you're delivering a message, and now you're kind of giving them, well, this is what my deja vu was, and
Yeah.
you could take it, and now their life changes either because of me. So their life changed because of something that I
Mm,
said. So I'm entrapping them to be whatever they're doing, is the
mm,
sense of that term.
yeah. I mean, right. I think we all have free will. It's like,
Yeah.
people can take it or leave it. So I don't, yes, I think we are catalysts for each other. Um, but I don't know, I think it's kind of designed to be that way. Cause haven't you ever noticed when you get a really deep message from somebody who's totally not, like, they're not on we're all on a spiritual journey, right? But they're not conscious, they're not into any of this stuff, and they deliver you like a very powerful message. I mean, it's
Sure.
tricky sometimes. It's like, oh my God, like the fact that this person is delivering this message, like, it means even more to me because I know that they're not into any of this shit.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think again, there's like truth in all things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're got a few moments left here, and since I don't have my star card, I don't know where my tarot card went. Do you have one available?
I do.
Well, please share with us your star card. There you go. Now the deck that I use is Robin Wood.
Okay.
That was a gift to me by Charlie Kinstrom, who
Hmm.
has passed. So I hold that one. And then I got a few others somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah. So what is your take on the star card? Let's get your tarot professional advice on
Ooh.
there.
No, no pressure at all, right? Okay. So this is one of the cool things that my mentor taught me, and I really think it's groovy. She's one of my mentors. She's very connected to like the extraterrestrials and the galactic family.
Oh,
So,
nice.
right, the star card is number 17, which reduces to 8. And one of the things that is really cool about this is there are 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like I have to, the accountant in me, I have to double check, triple check. There are 8 stars, and they
Hmm.
are 8 pointed stars. So I feel like it very much is. And I think this is also Aquarian energy. I'm pretty sure the star is Aquarius. Yeah. Um, yeah, it is our connection to the divine. And right, we seemingly this person is all alone, kind of doing their thing, but also we continue to have that connection to the paranormal and to spirit and to all of the other energies. And it's a card of trust for me too, because she's got both of the pictures and she's pouring out.
And she feels at ease because she's naked.
Mm-hmm.
She has 1 foot on water, 1 foot on land. She's pouring water both on water and in land.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all encompassing in a sense.
Yeah.
She's Starlight.
Oh, I love it. So what does that say to you about that she's pouring the water on the land and the ground?
Uh, growth and enrichments. You know, planting seeds. The seeds will now grow,
Yeah.
and sometimes, you know, the sun will definitely make the plant grow, but the during the night, those late night thunderstorms will give them a drink of water. So when the sun comes out and takes that water away, they'll grow with it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other thing I love about all of this really is that like hearing other people what they see in a card or like the insights that they get.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is very intuitive, and I believe again that like the images kind of activate something within us. So one of my favorite things to do in readings is when I pull a card, like spirit will have me do this sometimes where instead of like me telling the person what the card means, I'll ask them like, how does that card make you feel? Or like, what do you get when you look at the card? And it's trippy to hear what people have to say because it's like, oh, I never thought about that. You know, like there's a little tiny bird on the tree back here.
Yeah, I was trying to look in at this. I see a pink, something pink.
Yeah.
Is that a bird?
Yeah. So, right, like, what does that bird mean? You know, who knows, man?
Well, if it's at night, it's probably an owl or a bat. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very nocturnal.
Are you?
When I lived out at the schoolhouse, we were out there constantly. We had a fire pit back there, and over this course of the time that I lived there, we went from using a dresser as a bar to a tiki bar, an actual tiki bar back there.
Oh.
And we called it the Moon Saloon, actually, because we just watched the moon come up and set the whole night. We'd be out there playing bamboo drumsticks on the bar and sing along. And it was in a small town, so no one really called and harassed us. Had a blast. Very spiritual out there, especially when you got certain people to come in there. And one of the rules was there's no negativity, and if you're negative, we get rid of you. We say goodbye. You got to go home.
If you're negative.
Yeah, they fall in. Yeah, they fall in, or I fall in. I don't know.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts about going out west is how clear the sky is and how much you can see the stars. Like I remember just because I hadn't really been out west until a couple years ago, and I just was just enthralled by just looking at the sky. I was like, oh my God, this is the most magical thing ever. Because we don't get that a lot in Florida.
No. And you don't get that around Chicagoland area. But out here you do. You get to see the meteor showers. You get to see pretty much everything. I saw quite a few things out in the sky out here. And seen the northern lights. At one point, they don't get down here often. I've never seen them in my whole life. Maybe about 15 years ago I did. So that was kind of fun and interesting and amazing.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the 1111, and then you're also so pretty much throughout on your website. I mean, if you go on our blog, you're going to find everything you need to know. There's so much out there, but definitely, you offer so much services, and then that changes it. I assume because you had the Scorpio new moon eclipse healing with something coming up for November, December.
I'm actually working on a program right now.
Cool.
So that will be released probably in the next month or so.
Black Friday.
Yeah. But nobody will have to get shoved over and beaten over the head.
Give me those tarot.
Yeah, I also do a monthly free masterclass. So that's the first Thursday of every month, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then the other stuff right now, I'm doing pop-ups a lot. So it's just like if spirit tells me like, hey, people need healing right now. So I'll, just tune in intuitively. But consistently, it's the one-on-one sessions, the free masterclass every month. And the link for that is on my bio or on my website. Can you tell I'm getting past my bedtime an hour later? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah, and then the program that I'm creating. So and just continuing to show up for what people need, that's humbling as well. Like when you think that, your ego thinks like, oh, I'm going to be doing this thing, and Spirit's like, no, actually you're doing this thing.
Yeah, that's many times. So I'm grateful to have that ability to be aware sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta trust it. So I've been trusting it as a kid. So, and the time that I don't is the time, something you get bruised or harmed. So you gotta go with it. But I love the shed some light on it, and being from St. Augustine, of course, you have that famous lighthouse down there that I've been in a couple, 2-3 times. And have you ever been up at the lighthouse? Tell me you haven't.
I have, yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, if you're from St. Augustine, so they have, I think it's monthly, they have the Sunset Moonrise Tour. And I actually was on one of those, and it rained that day, so I thought they were going to cancel it, and they were messaging me saying they're going to cancel it. I'm like, oh my God, no. Because I was supposed to jump on that tour, and that was like the last thing I was going to do before I head home. And it was awesome. And that was, and I spoke about it before, is the caretaker, he allowed us to walk into the light. Like I can actually walk around, and you could see the crystals or whatever they had in it, and I was able to walk around there. So my light was casted out there, or my shadow. My shadow, anyway, was casted out there. I thought that was cool. That
is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, let me know next time you're in town. We can grab a cup of coffee or something, and you can show me around
your old town. There's a cool little place out there called the Floridian. Nice little restaurant. You been there?
That's my favorite. Yes.
Yeah, that place is really nice. I like the alligator. The sign that they have out there, that's cool. The old place, and the Huguenot Cemetery for me is one of the craziest. I like that. I've never been at the fort though.
What?
Right?
Wow. Have you been to the old jail?
Is that right in town there?
That's another that's another very active spot.
Yep. Actually, my cousin's down there in St. Augustine now. I have a old friend that lives down there in St. Augustine. My buddy Tim's cousin lives down there in St. Augustine. I should be in St. Augustine.
Everybody else is living here. You might as well.
I need to be. I love it down there, and I don't need to do the fancy beaches on the other side. I like that other side, and it's more quaint, I guess. And plus it's heading to Savannah too. Savannah's just like amazing. I mean, you can't like not look somewhere and be amazed about that city. But St. Augustine is more I don't know. It's just that Milltop End got me. The Huguenot Cemetery got me. It's just a cool place.
It's a place that tends to like capture people and bring them back. It's very interesting because when I was a kid and I would travel and tell people where I was from, they would have no idea. Like I would have to explain it to them. Wow. But now, for the most part, like when I meet people, oh, I love St. Augustine. I've been there. Yeah.
Well, they got the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
And the Church of La Leche.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a nice little area there. So. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know you have to probably get to sleep before the St. Augustine creatures come out.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Dean. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I did forget to ask, because you are in astrology and you mentioned it earlier about the higher beings or aliens. Do you believe in aliens?
I do. I don't. Again, like I don't think they're like the media portrays them, but you know,
Okay.
I think there's definitely energies out there.
Well, we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, right.
All right. Just hold on. We'll go behind the stereo. Just want to say goodbye to everyone. Thanks again for hanging out with the Paranormal Pickers. And Robin, get on her website. She shed some light on it.net.
Yes.
She's got an Instagram. Get out there and give her some love because she's got a lot of things to offer there. So I would like to say thanks again to everyone. Robin, thank you. Please hold on. We'll end broadcast and go behind in the stereo.
Oh, hey. Wow. Oh, hey everyone, it's Dean from Paranormal Pickers. Oh, I got the preview for the next episode. Oh, yeah. Here, take a peek.